Welcome everybody to Inside the Upside Down. I'm author and ghost historian Mike Ricksecker. With me as always is Shauna Wonkel, our chat shenanigator from Edge of the Rabbit Hole and a fantastic writer in her own right. She finds it humorous when I say that for some reason, but it's true. She is a fantastic writer. Check out her stories in the Encounters with Paranormal books. So, all right. So this show is the end. Goodbye. The end. It is actually the end. And I know Adam Tillery is going to be heartbroken because he designed these wonderful t-shirts like this, of which have been banned. Dun, dun, dun. They have been. So, and it's actually been something that's a long time coming that I discussed with Shauna a couple months ago, right? Mm-hmm. Where Inside the Upside Down is actually, this is the end. It is no more. That's it. Done. Fini. This is the last episode. It doesn't mean we're not going to go live with some sort of show after Edge of the Rabbit Hole, because that was requested by all of you. Well, at least most all of you, to follow up Edge of the Rabbit Hole with another show. Actually, what the request was to make Edge of the Rabbit Hole a 2-hour show, and Vanessa can't do that. So we came up with this show, and because Stranger Things was popular at the time, I named it Inside the Upside Down. And, well, I knew that wasn't going to be a forever name. And so I discussed with Shauna a couple months ago about possibly renaming it. But then I got a couple emails from people that had caught the podcast version. And so I was getting, possible opportunities for some other ventures, I'll just say. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll keep it around a little bit. That, and people like the shirts. Spreadshirt has banned the shirt. So, because it harkens too much to Stranger Things. Even though the font is not copyrighted by Stranger Things. I mean, the font's been around forever. It was on Choose Your Own Adventure books way back in the day, as well as all kinds of other media. The term Inside the Upside Down is not copywritten. Upside Down isn't, none of that. But they recognize that it's a play off of Stranger Things. And so they don't want it confused with Stranger Things merch. And so it's been banned. Sorry, Adam, because it's Adam Tillery's design. It's a cool design. People like it. Those
losers.
Yeah.
They're just jealous.
So, and people are like, what? Down in the chat, why? Okay, so I'm trying to explain it all. Yes, it's definitely a shame. Andrea, are you still going to go live here after Rabbit Hole? Yes, we are. So I'm getting around to all that, and you know me, I'm very wordy and over-explain everything. So, and there's Shauna agreeing with me.
I gotta agree there.
Yes, he does over-explain himself. Sometimes I have to listen to his ass for hours at night.
Like, and then...
Mm-hmm.
And
now the truth comes out.
What's the point of the story?
Get around to it, man. So, yeah, it is a shame. So, if you have a Inside the Upside Down t-shirt, good on you. It's a collector's item now. Spreadshirt is now made a collector's item. I have one extra large t-shirt left in my stock. I was trying to order more for the events coming up and couldn't do it. So, since I was already thinking about changing the name of the show, and now the t-shirts have been banned, and I'm sure that down the road this is going to become a bigger issue, we'll just go ahead and change the name now. I don't know what the name is going to be yet. Something to do with shadows. Name the car the Shadow. We've got the Shadow Person book coming out.
The car even has its own theme song.
It does. Walk in the Shadows by Queensryche.
Got to put the shades on.
Yep.
Hit the open road, and that's the theme song.
Yep. So it's going to be something to do with shadows, and I don't know what yet. I mean, Katie and Josh just came out with Walking in the Shadows, which is actually rather ironic because my book title is A Walk in the Shadows. So it's like... I don't know, synchronicity or something. So it's going to be something to do with that. So this is the end of Inside the Upside Down, but it is not the end of our live stream that we do on Tuesday nights. We're still going to do something. We're going to figure it out within the next week. So I figure what we'll do for this particular episode is we will we could reminisce about good times on Inside the Upside Down. We could do a paranormal Q&A. You guys could throw some stuff down there in the chat, and we'll take your topics and just Inside the Upside Down. The idea was with the Upside Down and Stranger Things, it's like the opposite of the real world. It's that spiritual world, supernatural world that the creatures and the entities go into, that is basically like a flip side of the real world, and they found a way to cross into it. What are you laughing about?
Outside the downside up.
Nice. Hey, there was that kid's book, Inside, Outside, Upside Down. We could do that, but I think that's a Dr. Seuss. So we covered like a wide range of different supernatural topics. We started with stuff. We started with shadow people, of course. We did cemetery stuff, of course. But then we did things like the Mandela effect and the Kampsville experiments. And we got into a lot of different type of metaphysical stuff that we weren't really covering on Edge of the Rabbit Hole, because Edge of the Rabbit Hole we're interviewing a guest and talking about their experiences and things like that. Inside the Upside Down allowed us to explore some of these other topics. We even did like Area 51 the other day. You weren't here for that one, but we've done stuff like that. It allowed us to explore other topics, which we want to keep doing, just with a different title. So throw a topic down there, we'll discuss it. Yeah, Adam, that is hard to say. It's funny. So Genevieve Rogue, oh my God, I was just thinking, Walking in the Shadows, but didn't know about the book. Yeah, that's the book I'm writing. And then Terry Tormino, the song will be in my head all night now. Awesome. It's an awesome song from an awesome band. Diane Hilbert, if we fall down the rabbit hole, name this Where's the Rope? Nice. There's a lot of different things we could name it, and we'll brainstorm here over. I've already had a couple of ideas. Some things are already taken because a lot of people do make the play off of shadows. So we'll put some ideas together and then cross check to see if stuff is already taken, and we'll go from there. Andrea Agerson is asking about phantom shadows. I don't know. Okay, Facebook just glitched. It went blue on me for a minute. Don't crap out on us, Facebook. We've had enough technical issues. Tanya Haynes is saying Shadow Worlds. I don't know. Maybe. We could talk about what we were doing this past weekend with the cemetery crawls, zombie road, stuff like that. That was a good time.
That was fun.
Yeah, so St. Charles.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. It's and we had your favorite barbecue.
Oh my God.
So,
salt and smoke. Yes.
So I'm going to try to share this out while we're doing this. Try to multitask, right? So what we ended up doing for this past weekend, and there'll be, of course, a video coming out soon here about St. Charles, about lost cemeteries. And that's another thing we've done here on Inside the Upside Down, lost cemeteries. So it's one of our pet projects, I guess, of trying to find these different places. And you found some places with your dad yesterday, too.
Yeah, my dad, we almost had a wreck on the bike because he'd pulled a mic and slammed on the brakes. Whoa, there's a cemetery. And it felt a lot different being on the bike than it did in the car. I was a little frightened. I was like, but Dad. He's like, well, I'm sorry. There's a cemetery right there.
It's kind of like squirrel. Yeah. But in this case, it's cemetery.
Yeah. And it wasn't that big. There was a house across the street. And I assume that I named it the Corton Cemetery because the name of the road was Corton Road. And there were Cortons and Crawfords in there. So it was toss-up between the two of them what the name of the cemetery was. So we'll have to look it up. But it was just a small little cemetery. And stones there was some modern, a little bit modern, and then there were some that were pretty old. A couple of them that would have required, grave rubbing to be able to tell what they said. But unless there were some markers missing, it was a pretty small cemetery.
Yeah.
But it was still kind of cool.
Small family cemetery out there, but those are always fun to find.
Yeah.
So we have some other suggestions here. Brandy Starleaper, Shadowside. Tim Show is basically talking about your birthday barbecue.
Oh, man. It was good.
Yeah, and they're thanking you for the picks. Out of the Shadows is another one from Andrea Agrasane. So got some good suggestions down here. Genevieve Rove, Shadow Convincer. Cool. So another one from Genevieve, Moon Shadow. Or, sorry, I got Kitty. I'm over the Moon Shadow. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, Moon Shadow. Okay, cool. So, but yeah, on Saturday at St. Charles, we were tracking down the story of the lost cemetery that's at Kister Park. For those of you that don't know, Greg Rankin down there probably knows the story that Kister Park that's down there was originally the city cemetery, and they ended up moving the bodies out of there and put the park into place. But they didn't move all the bodies. Those that were a little bit, I guess, not well off, for lack of a better term, were left there, and the more affluent were moved. And what was the name of the cemetery? St. Charles
Borromeo?
Borromeo. There you go. Borromeo Cemetery is where they ended up. And so we went to St. Charles Borromeo Cemetery, and we're taking a look at the stones. And on the one, because we're looking around for some sort of like plaque or marker or whatever, we find the founder of St. Charles up there. It's like, okay, that's cool, because that looked like a, maybe something to signify the other cemetery people, but no, it was the founder, which is still cool. But then we found a obelisk monument with a big plaque for Francois Duquette. And it tells the story right there of how his body was moved from the St. Charles Borromeo, or not from the St. Charles Borromeos, from the original city cemetery on Main and Jackson, which is Kister Park. And then his body wasn't moved straight to the St. Borromeo Cemetery, which is, a couple miles away right now. It was moved next to the St. Borromeo Church that was downtown at the time, which was basically like a block up. And apparently there was another little cemetery there. So even though all the stories that like Shauna was finding online are talking about, Kister Park, which was a cemetery, and they're saying there is a lost cemetery here, it's like, no, there's two. Because where that church was, and they have a recreation that's there now, was also a cemetery. So you've had bodies moved all over this town in a couple different spots, which was really interesting to discover.
Yeah.
So we covered that, and we'll get into like more in depth and all that when we do the video. Tim shown Shadows of the Night. That probably if somebody probably has that one. Or Terry Tormino, Dark Shadows. That was like the first thing that came to mind. It's like, oh, we can't do that because
50 Shades of Shadows.
50 Shades of Shadows from Adam Tillery. I have to change my name to Christian. All right, so I thought that was like Edge of the Rabbit Hole type of topic there.
Yeah.
We went a little crazy in Edge of the Rabbit Hole today. So we did those cemeteries. We did St. Borromeo. Then the other one was the Emos New Cemetery. That was sad.
Yeah, that was pretty sad because there was well, you tell better than I do. You go ahead.
Oh, she knows the story. She doesn't want to tell it.
Yeah, go ahead. You tell better than I do. Okay.
So we're doing the research on St. Borromeo Cemetery, which is right there by these two other cemeteries. The one was called the Emos Cemetery, and the other was Emos New Cemetery. So what the heck is this? And you're looking at the Google Maps PC version, not on the phone, not on the mobile. The PC version shows this like huge like institution there, and then it has like these ghosted in roads. So it's like, okay, what the heck is this? What's going on with the cemetery? It looks like you can get to the one cemetery through a road, but the other one not. So I dropped the guy down onto the map to go to the street view, and all of a sudden you see like this new housing development that pops up on Google Maps on the street view. You can only go so far because apparently they've only done so much of the photography for it. So come to find out, it's basically that it was the EMOS. It was the EMOS Asylum for the original name, EMOS Asylum for epileptics and idiots. Straight up, that was the name, epileptics and idiots. So basically, it was for people who had epilepsy and people who were, had mental handicaps. This was the St. Charles women's only version of that, and I forget where the original institute was. But basically, this has recently been obliterated. And those big, huge buildings, and the big church, and all this stuff that went with it, totally obliterated. The couple of cemeteries are left there. The one you can't get to because you have to go through private property in people's backyards and stuff. But the new one is still there, and there's some stones. But then from there, you're looking out over where the institute had been, and there's all these, cookie cutter right on top of each other, family homes. We probably have no idea what was there.
No.
So, and you see the kids playing in the backyard, and
You're like, if you knew what was underneath your house right now, or what used to be.
Yeah. So it's like one of these days we're going to get a call from somebody in St. Charles that says, yeah, we have all this activity going on, but we have like a newer house.
It's like, where are you at?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you about what used to be where your house is now. I have a feeling that the people that they bought the houses or got the house from, those people are going to be getting some phone calls.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Well, you think about it. Already they have 3 cemeteries right there, of course. And then they have the institute where, 2 of the cemeteries have people that lived there for a good chunk of their lives. So they're there. Because they didn't have to go far. They went from basically the middle of that neighborhood to the cemetery as far as their physical body. So they're going to be there. Crazy stuff. So we have some more suggestions here for the new name. So Diane Hilbert says Shadow Talk. Tammy Blocker Golden says Shadow Stalkers. I'm liking these suggestions, guys. So keep them coming.
Is my photographer.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Awesome. Looking forward to this photo shoot.
If anybody lives in Missouri, Tammy Blocker Golden down there in chat, her and her daughter are awesome. Photographers, the hair and the makeup, the edits, they really...
And it's like the creepy, cool, like gothic sort of stuff. Yeah.
So if you...
They're the ones that did your vampire shoot?
Yeah, my vampire photo shoot. So if you guys have ever seen that...
it's pretty damn sexy.
It was
I was stalking that stuff before we met.
All that and a photo shoot. So look it up. Look her up on Facebook and hit her up because Shauna tested and approved.
Awesome. Don Francisco says Shadow Voyeurs. Ooh. Maybe I could don the name Christian with that one. Tom McNicholas, Lost in the Shadows. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm definitely liking these names. What else? Terry Tormino, Poltergeist Time, new house built over a cemetery. Yeah. Well, it's not actually built over the cemetery. The 3 cemeteries are kind of like around it. The houses are built on top of where the institute was. So basically where like the dormitories, the infirmary, the church, like this whole school, all that stuff would have been. And it's leveled houses, and then cemetery behind it, and then 2 that are off to the side there. So it's crazy. Stacy Comiskey, Into the Shadows. Genevieve Roach, Shadowmancer. Interesting. Cool. Brandy Star Leaper, Shadow Voyage. Got a lot of great ones here. Tammy Heitzman says Mike is blushing. Was I blushing?
Probably just hot.
Oh, probably. Well, probably when I said I was stalking your stuff, which I was, because you'd comment on something, and I'd be like, "Who's this?" Click. Oh, I know her. Go through the photos. Oh, damn. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. So, yeah. Yeah, then we went to what they call Zombie Road. And it's kind of an interesting place. It's out in the woods. It was a old road from long ago. There's that little railroad line that goes through there. And people...
You definitely feel like you're being watched a little bit.
Yeah.
Like there was at least, 1 or 2 times, but my favorite part was the path that went to the river.
Right.
And it's beautiful, peaceful, and there's a bunch of rocks. And I found my first hagstone out in the wild. So
did.
I'm pretty happy about that because I have a hagstone, and I gave one to my friend Nakia. So we'd have a match set, but I bought those from Zen. And they got them from the wild too,
Right.
You can tell. So, but I found one, and I want to go back, and I want to find some more. Found some pumice and some kind of, I don't even know what kind of rock it was, but it was that kind of cool
That
pink.
pinkish one, yeah. We'll have to look that up and figure it out, because offhand I didn't know. I mean, I found like a piece of jasper down in there. An oyster shell, which somebody probably threw off of their boat because they were eating oysters. But so it's some interesting stuff. We always like rocks and geology and all that. But yeah, the road itself, it was very cool with the little train tracks going over it and everything. But people see apparitions there of like Native American, Civil War soldiers, children, industrial workers. So it's a very haunted path that's going through. Basically, it's a park there now. And so they've nicknamed it Zombie Road. So we got to go check it out. Diane Hilbert, is the photo shoot still up for viewing? So your vampire one is still on your profile.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, it's like way down. I have a lot of photo albums. Anybody that's on my friends list knows I've got probably several thousand photos because I'm always uploading something. And yeah, it's the photo shoot, and then it has like some random the stuff that was happening. And then I basically just took a bath in a big pool of blood.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
It was
So
pretty
whenever
cool.
I'm, going in to take a shower, I look like I just went on a murdering spree. So
Maybe you did.
maybe I did.
Maybe she did. Greg Rinkin, Shadow of Mordor. Well, that is a little bit too much Lord of the Rings, but and I love Lord of the Rings, but couldn't use it. Robert Hanna, The Shadow World. Stacey Comiskey, Shadow's Edge. What do you see?
Brighton.
Brighton.
Several old cemeteries here around Brighton, like Brighton, Illinois.
Yeah, Brighton where?
That's pretty close.
Well, I have been saying that there's a couple around Brighton. We just always drive through it, and we just haven't done much there. Yeah, Donna saying many Civil War cemeteries in her small town. Yep. They're going to go check out your photos afterward. Cool. Tracy Christian, back and forth into the shadows. So, yeah, still have some great suggestions here.
But they do other photo shoots too, though. Because they do, like children, they probably do senior pictures if you want them to do it. And glam, I mean, just whatever you want to do, as creepy or cool or glam as you want to do it, they'll do it.
She says, sorry, yes, Brighton is. So, okay, so Brighton, cool. That's just right down the road.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I know we've talked about that before. We just, like I said, we always end up driving right through. So we'll have to definitely do it this time. All right, so with this being our final Inside the Upside Down, we can highlight some of the stuff that we've done. Like your Gonsfeld experiment was always an interesting story.
Which we've never actually done.
We haven't done one yet.
But we need to.
Yep. So Gonsfeld experiment basically is sensory deprivation and tuning into your surroundings during a paranormal investigation.
Yeah.
Well, you used it for a paranormal investigation. Others just use it for sensory deprivation and kind of like testing for ESP and stuff like that. But you actually use it during a paranormal investigation.
Yeah, kind of like on Insidious.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like in Cities where she uses like the whole mask and everything. So,
Yeah, and we did kind of like a modified version of that, but it worked. When you're going to do it, do it. If you're going to do it in a place that you're kind of creeped out by, do it around people that you trust to be around you, because, I mean, I did it in a cafe, so I would not. Very rare was I alone in there. And I definitely would not close my eyes alone in there. But whenever you do that experiment, it's basically just you and your own little world. And you, there could be people, and people were just, several feet away from me, and I couldn't feel them, see them, hear them, anything. And then you stay under for like we each did it for like 25 minutes or so. And it took me a while, to kind of relax, to be like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to do this. And I was like, will I be able to go under if I'm thinking about it? And then finally, then it felt like I wasn't under for that long. And then finally things started happening like towards the end. So if you can allow yourself to relax and open yourself up to it, people have been known to astrally project. There's a number of cool things that can happen. So.
Yep, absolutely.
And we had to wonder, if you're, not totally, aware of your body at the time, can you bring something back with you and stuff like that? So. You
never know.
Yeah. So.
Especially in a place like the cafe.
Yeah. Or that place, you were usually leaving with something, somebody. We'll just
somebody
say
was following you out.
Yeah. No matter what you said in there, I mean, you could say, "Don't follow me home." You could be specific about who you didn't want to follow you.
Well,
home.
You let Byron come home with you.
I let him come home.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew he could come home with me. I'd be like, "Come on, let's go." He did it on his own, so I figure he's not attached to the venue. He's just attached to the property, so he can go wherever he wants as long as it's in his little
area.
Because he definitely didn't follow me whenever I left the area.
Yeah, because he stayed over there. So Tom McNicholas, Lost in the Shadows, An Interdimensional Interpretation by Mike Ricksecker. That's funny. Darian Vonneman, I hope I'm saying that right, Vonneman. There are several outside of town in the country. Yeah, around Brighton area, or if you go, check out our Lost Cemeteries video. It covers Jersey County, which isn't too far. And there's Belt Salem and Armstrong, and so it's a project that we've been undertaking, is finding these different lost cemeteries around the country. And then we did we haven't posted that with Kennedy. I did like the IGT video, and I posted a little bit like on the Patreon page and stuff like that. But so be on the lookout for that too from the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel. So I guess that's where I'm meaning to say, since right now we're broadcasting Facebook, check out the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel, our Lost Cemetery videos. So let's see. Tim Schoen's Secrets of the Shadows. Yeah, Don, final Inside the Upside Down. That's why everybody's giving the shadow names, because this is our final Inside the Upside Down, and so we're changing the name. Genevieve Rogue, I love sensory deprivation. So Michelle Kuhn, not sure what the shadow names are for, but does things like Shadow Secrets of the Shadow like this go along with the conversation? Okay, no, we're changing the name of the show. This is the Inside the Upside Down show. We're changing the name of it. We've been doing this for almost 2 years. I see it blipped again like that. But we've been doing this one for almost 2 years, just changing the name, and so we're gonna do something with shadows, and so people are throwing down the different names having to do with shadows. And Don, we haven't even discussed the new season of Stranger Things. Check out my podcast. I did post the Stranger Things season 3 review, like it was right after it came out. So we're talking like a month ago. I did the review, but just go to the Mike Ricksecker audio journey on like almost any podcast platform like iTunes, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, Mike Ricksecker Audio Journey podcast, and you can tune into the Stranger Things 3 review that I did. And if you want, the posts are probably still down on my page somewhere, so you could always just add to that and we can discuss. Let's see. So I think if you guys had a couple of more here. Diane Hilbert saw your photos. She said, great photos. Kathy Ciliento, yeah. The Shadow Knows. The old radio show. Like old school, back in the 40s. That's awesome. So let's see. And Dave Wilkerson, Dave Stiles, is still pining for Spook Show Con in Chattanooga. So Tom McNicholas, Dave Wilkerson, you two connect and work on the Spook Show Con in Chattanooga. So let's see. What else have we done on Inside the Upside Down? We've talked. Well, we talked about reincarnation. We did a couple of different things on that.
Conspiracy theories.
Did conspiracy theories. If you want, any of you guys want to talk about any of these subjects, just throw that down in there. Yeah, we did conspiracy theories. We did. I did Slender Man. I think I did that one on my own. So some of those different ones, like Dear David thing, we debunked that. Just some of those kind of off the wall ones. Mandela effect, we did that. So there's a lot of different topics that we've done. And Tim Schoen's calling for it. All right. So Vanessa Hogo wants Parallel Shadows. So here we go. This final episode of Inside the Upside Down is brought to you by Haunted Road Roast. It helps you hunt ghosts. Yeah, so there we go. Trying to think. I mean, there's... we did the Dream World and astral projection.
Time travel.
Yeah, a lot. We recently did time travel. So
Shadow people.
Well, we get into shadow people. We started off the show with shadow people, and then what was it? Maybe 2 months ago, we did shadow people again, like our first time in a year and a half. And I know some people fretted about it, or maybe it was a person, but you hadn't told your stories. The shadow people stories had always been from my side, and you had an opportunity to tell your shadow people stories, which you've had some.
Yeah, I've had a few.
Yep. Like you had Shawshank Shadows, nice. Like the Goldenrod. And we're going to talk about, you're actually going to talk about that in the book, A Walk in the Shadows. You're going to submit a couple stories. Mm-hmm. People have been submitting some shadow people stories to that and recounting their experiences. But Goldenrod Showboat.
Mineral Springs.
A
lot. Vandalia.
Yep. Vandalia. So you've seen, Diane Hilbert. That was the old radio show. Yep. Yes, we did also cover Area 51 here just a couple of weeks ago. The whole storming Area 51. I believe that stuff is going on there. I don't believe storm it. You might get yourself killed. The whole, they can't shoot all of us. Yes, they could. Just watch the end of The Last Samurai. They could absolutely mow you down like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you're trespassing. They're perfectly within their rights to do it, really.
I mean, yeah, they got the signs there. The deadly force is authorized.
Yeah.
So, yep. So, so shadows. We can talk a little bit about shadows here.
Does water have memory?
Does water have memory? Yes. Yes, we did. Oh, it's an interesting idea. And I saw somebody like not too long ago throw up there for a show topic, whatever their show was, water memory. And it's like, really? So it's getting around. Yeah, does water have memory? Well, if water really had memory, you got to think about it. This stuff just gets recycled through the earth. It's on the ground, it evaporates, goes up into the air, becomes a cloud, rains, and through the cycle, right? Well, that means that the water that we're drinking right now, thousands of years ago, was somebody else drank this. It rained on somebody else, and those could have been some of our historic figures. I always throw like Cleopatra out there, or Julius Caesar, or anybody from history, Genghis Khan. I mean, just throw some names out, Elizabeth Bathory, whomever. So think about if water had memory, the stories it could tell, because it's been here forever, and so it knows the truth. It's almost kind of like if the walls could speak, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What if water could speak?
It does.
It does. Well, yes. In Mineral Springs, it speaks.
Water-based EVPs.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, we've talked water-based EVPs before. We've done shows like that. We've done Inside the Upside Down shows where we've gone through our paranormal evidence, like EVPs or photos, the Kampsville grade school shadow, the footsteps at Kampsville. We've, any of our like really cool EVPs or photo evidence or anything like that, we've done Inside the Upside Down shows on. So
ley lines.
We've done ley lines, yes. And then for Edge of the Rabbit Hole, we brought on Freddie Silva to better explain ley lines.
Yeah.
Vanessa says, "Me and my shadow." Nice. Kathy Ciliento, "Beyond the Shadow." Bree Jones, "Through the Shadows." Yeah. Diane Hilbert, "Me and my shadow strolling down the avenue." Yes, yeah. Let's see, Genevieve. Yeah, I know the Area 51 thing is a joke, but some people were having all these kind of crazy ideas, so we addressed it. We talked about some of the different things that they are actually hiding at Area 51, and just tell us the things that we want to know. Show us an alien doing a selfie on another world or something. Dave Wilkerson, "Seeing shadows on the battlefield down there in Chattanooga area." Yeah. Elizabeth Bathory, "Did she drink water?" Well, I guess. I mean, she bathed. Well, actually, she didn't bathe in blood, but she tortured a lot of young women, for sure. And the numbers vary as to how many she actually killed. Some say, like around 600. Some say it's even more than that. The legend is she bathed in blood, but there's actually no evidence that she actually did. But the different atrocities that she committed, and the torture and all that. I mean, and it wasn't just after her husband died. Her husband was doing it too with her before he died. They would do crazy things like they'd get ticked off with somebody, and they'd, on a cold winter's night, throw them out in the snow naked, and then dump water on them and leave them out there to freeze to death. And basically, when her husband died, she went further off the deep end. So we have one of our Friday Night Ghost Frights on Elizabeth Bathory. Mm-hmm. So, Tammy Heitzman, "Running in the Shadows." Cool. Let's see. Vanessa Hogel, "Call the show Pandora's Box." I couldn't do that, actually. For one, I'm sure somebody already has used that name, Pandora's Box, for a show. But two, my friend Ron would kill me. That was the name of our band, Pandora's Box. Actually, it was the name of our band for the most part. And then Aerosmith came out with their box set, Pandora's Box. And he decided, well, we can't call ourselves Pandora's Box now. So then we were Empire's End for a while. So we're talking like 30 years ago. Now they're talking Elizabeth Bathory down there. Yeah, she and that was the thing was, she basically it killed all the girls from the village, and then she had to take in new people. She needed new victims, so she opened up actually a finishing school, a college there at the castle, and she started killing noble girls. And once she did that, that's what did it for her. Katie Birdie, "Memories of a Shadow." Diane Hilbert, "As a Shadow Lurks." Stacy Comiskey, "Shadow Box." So Robert Hanna, "The area known as S4 near Area 51 is where they're keeping the alien spacecrafts, according to Bob Lazar." Yes, that's Bob Lazar's testimony to that, which I actually believe Bob Lazar in that, and I talk about that in that video. And also when we did conspiracy theories on Edge of the Rabbit Hole. So, and you can watch those as for the reasons why. As the Shadow Walks. It's kind of almost like As the World Turns.
These are also all good book, band, and song names.
Yeah, they are. So, Diane Hilbert, Shadow Walker. Okay, so since we're talking shadows, let's talk about our shadow people stories. We'll just go there. So I mentioned it earlier, Goldenrod Showboat with the shadow, the two twinkles. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, not only, well, it wouldn't be the first time that I've ever seen a shadow, and this one was taller than your average adult, but not like the super tall, creepy looking shadow people that sometimes people talk about. It was definitely human. Could have been wearing a dress because I didn't really see any legs. But then the shadow, I come up to the top of the stairs, and I never really went anywhere on the boat alone. But I went up to the top of the stairs, and as soon as I got in the doorway, I saw the shadow walk through the doorway into the next room, and then two of the little twinkles following it. So that would be also a first for seeing more than one twinkle in an area at the same time.
Yeah, and that was an area where every time I walked through there, from the very first time I ever stepped on that boat, when you first invited me out, I always got, and it was just some sort of, I don't want to say buzz, but that's where I'd like get cobwebby on the arms and the face.
I didn't like
and
it.
There was always something creepy about that area. Just definitely creep factor just walking through it. And then we discover that last time we ever investigated, Jake finally let us know that, hey, that area up there was actually Charlie's room. And so Charlie was connected to Annie, who perished. We don't know how, but she wound up next to the boat in the water, dead. So we had a theory that possibly the shadow that we were seeing, if it is a human spirit manifesting as a shadow, that it could have possibly been Charlie.
Yeah, and he had every reason to be upset, which could be why the energy was so strong up in there and why it just always felt just unhappy. So it makes sense to me. And the twinkles, I have no idea. I've only seen one at a time, but I'd never seen two of them together. And it kind of looked like they were all three affiliated with each other somehow, because the twinkles just followed him, just like single file, just floated right through the doorway with the shadow. So I always wondered about that, because usually whenever we see a twinkle, it's just like, oh, there's a twinkle, or random, but it doesn't always happen at the same time as other stuff.
Right.
So,
see, Joe Chandler, a voice of the shadows, her suggestion. Chipper Terry is asking, Shauna, did you sense that the shadow person was negative?
Not negative, like scary, dark, non-human negative. Just negative as in, it was not good energy. It was just unhappy. And sometimes, and it wasn't like fear. It was just the energy. It was just too much, and I just didn't like it up there. Like sometimes it was just way too overwhelming, and just got hit with this wall of, no, not gonna go in there. But every once in a while, I would go in there and I'd be like, okay, let's hurry up,
Right.
because it just in your face, just uncomfortable. You could almost like feel it, like wear it. It was just so negative. And I'm sure Charlie was a nice guy, I'm sure he was. Never really heard anything bad about him.
But he seems to be pretty, if this is him, pretty sad in the afterlife, and he's letting people know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or at least he was, because we don't know what's going on now that the boat is gone. So.
Right. So I still want to go, there to see if anybody's
still hanging around.
Yeah, if anybody's still hanging around. I would guess that the balls of light, the twinkles, the whatever we saw whenever we went back, I would imagine they're tied to the land. And of course, they kind of follow around here too. So kind of wonder always if I wasn't open to seeing them before. But then all of a sudden I was, and they're just naturally here. Only my filter just kind of lifted enough for me to acknowledge them. Or have I not seen them all this time because they follow me?
Right.
I have no idea. I do not have an answer for that.
So Robert Hanna asked, do you guys need permits to investigate any of those cemeteries? I mean, most of the cemeteries we go to are public. Anything that would be private, we would ask. Like we were looking into the Molly Crenshaw story for this past Saturday, since we were going to be in the area, and the cemetery where she's buried, although they've removed the headstone because of all the, if you guys know the legend at all, and people were actually going and doing things to the grave, with, desecrating the gravesite and things like that. So they removed the headstone. But the cemetery that she's at is actually on private property. It's a really big cemetery, actually. It's pretty good size, but you have to make arrangements to go there and get permission because it's on private property. So for something like that, we would, not a permit, but.
I mean, and, it doesn't hurt to ask. And the worst they could say is no. And if they say no, then you could stay off the property line and just zoom in and take pictures that way. Just tell them, we get it, but we're going to be off the property line. We're still going to take pictures, if that's okay, Just ask. You would be surprised what you would be, allowed to see, allowed to do if you just ask permission. Because most of those people are just pissed because, nobody asked permission. They just go. And then if you...
Right, I mean, it's just courtesy.
If you're disrespectful enough to just go without asking, then they're going to assume that you're probably also a vandal too, because vandals don't ask permission and they, desecrate graves, like knock stuff over. So these people don't know that you're not going to do that. So I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't blame them either.
I'd be mad too if someone came on my property without asking.
Yep. Genevieve Roga used to see, she's talking about shadows. You see one often in random places. Wasn't actually like moments of my life where things were about to change before my mom passed away. It was strange, not negative. I'd see it every second of the day for a while. It looked like a typical Reaper image, but didn't feel like one. So that would be like the hooded figure, which, it's kind of a mixed bag. Sometimes they're negative, sometimes they're not. I mean, you're one of the twins. Had some interesting experiences with the hooded figure, both in a negative way and in what seemed like a positive way.
Yeah.
So that was a really interesting story that she told, and it's making the hooded figure section of the book.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that.
I hope she doesn't mind.
But probably should ask her.
Well, I have to ask. Are you watching? Well, I can't remember if it was Tammy or Tanya.
Well, I'll hit them both up.
Yeah. So just to verify, but yeah, I've got that. I haven't hit the hooded figure section of the book yet, but yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Terry, how lucky you two are to have a partner who shares your passion for the paranormal. Absolutely. It's one of the things that brought us together. I mean, actually, paranormal is what brought us together, but it's, it's something that that we have in common, that we are able to go do whenever we both have time off to spend together.
Yeah.
So, like now. Now we're sitting here talking about the paranormal. Yeah. Kathy Ciliento, the Shadow Spectre. Cool. Yeah, I mean, it might be one of these names that somebody threw down that we end up using. I don't know. Maybe. That'd be pretty cool. And and I've had a lot of shadow people experiences. And that was just one of yours. You've had a few. I've had a lot. One of the more interesting ones, though, was when we were together, and we didn't see it while we were there, but looking over the footage afterward, it was where we kept hearing, noises and sounds and all that. It was at the Kampsville grade school, and it was by that door that led to the boys' locker room and down into the basement, and it was like toying with us because we'd hear something from over there, we'd go over there, nothing, and then we'd hear things from over the bleachers. We'd go back in the bleachers, nothing going on in the bleachers, but then back over there by that door, we'd hear stuff. And so we're panning the camera around, and you're trying to talk to it, and and all that. And I ended up on the video capturing the shadow person walking. So it was very cool. Somewhere like I know it's on my Instagram. I have the still image or a clip, a still captured from that and put on there so you guys can see it. But it's in all of the Kampsville Grade School videos that we've done, and on one of our Inside the Upside Down shows when we were covering. I was probably on a couple of them. We were covering shadows, and we were covering like video evidence or photos or something like that. So, but that was really, really cool. And then we went back and we tested like the height.
About chest high.
Yeah. Yeah, because I had you go stand about where it was walking at, and then you took a photo and just compared, the clip that we had captured from the video to Shauna's photo that we had taken, and just kind of compared the height. And yeah, so about chest high. So maybe it's a child. I mean, it's a school.
And then we had to stop coming in there.
Yeah,
I was kind of mad about that.
Archaeology department took it over. So.
And, I hated that basement. Oh, my God. At one time, and actually, Tanya says she's still there. She's still in the room. Is my last time in.
Was it Tanya that told the story?
Was it?
I'm sorry. I cannot tell you two apart.
Tanya. Well, was it you that told the hooded figure?
And if so, do we have permission to use the story?
And put your name.
You'll put your name on it, yeah. If you want your name, or we make it anonymous or whatever. So, Robert Han is asking if we investigated Resurrection Cemetery. Ghost Con coming up here in Chicago this October. We'll check it out. So, because, we want to check out the Resurrection Mary story. And Terry says it's that we make a great team. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So, Kathy Ciliento with a good question. Have you ever felt threatened from a shadow person? That's like the whole question of, are they evil or anything like that? I will say this. The first shadow person I ever saw, yes, because I didn't understand what it was. And for those of you that don't know the story, so I was about 8 or 9 years old, woke up in the middle of the night, and I look in the corner of my room, and there stands a shadow person. Of course, I did not know at the time that that's what you call it. I thought there was an intruder in my room that was there to kill me. I've seen enough movies. Somebody in my room is going to kill me. Completely black. Couldn't see any features, nothing like that. It came up to my bed. I was frightened. I was trying to scream, but mouth open, nothing came out. So yes, I felt threatened. It crossed my arms across my body for whatever reason, I don't know. And then it ran off down the hall, and I watched it go. Finally found my voice, found my legs, ran screaming off to my parents' room. Of course, they told me that I just had a dream, but I was awake for the whole thing. So I think there's a moth flying around, yeah. So yes, I felt threatened at the time from that. Since that time, I've had to wonder what its true intentions were. I've had a couple of people tell me that maybe it thought I was dead and was putting me into a burial pose. So maybe it wasn't necessarily trying to be evil or nasty or anything like that. And maybe I didn't actually have anything to be scared of. Of course, being the age I was, of course I did. But the other shadows that I've seen, one looking in my bedroom when I was 13 years old and kept peeking in as I was unpacking boxes because we were moving into a new house. No, it was just kind of curious. I didn't feel threatened. One at Johnny V's restaurant. You can check all these out in our Shadow People videos on the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel. One at Johnny V's restaurant, when I walked into the kitchen and it just like darted across the room. It was more like I scared it. So most other shadows that I've seen, I have not felt threatened. And I don't know if you felt threatened by, kind of creeped out, I guess, by that one at Goldenrod, but.
Yeah, I was more surprised than anything. But there was the one that I was talking about earlier today. Rita was with me. It was a private investigation. Actually, it was after the night that all hell broke loose at the cafe. And we weren't
Okay.
quite done, but we didn't want to go back in there. So we're like, well, we had this other one. Let's see if we were able to go to that one. And so we did. And that was the time after listening to the audio, there were two spirits talking to each other. There was a man that growled and said something, and then there was a woman that told us just to please go because it sounded like she was on our side.
Wow.
Like, oh my God, get away. We didn't hear any of that. But usually whatever, when we first walked into the house, all of us were like, hi, and I'd been in the house many times. 'Cause my sister used to live there.
Okay.
And I'd been there a few times. And but this time we were going in for a different reason. So, made sure to say hi, this is us, this is why we're here. And then the one time that Rita and I were just walking through the house and just opened the door to one of the rooms and there was a shadow right there. And we both saw it because I was like, do you see that? And she was like, yeah, I see it's right there. And it was just standing there. And I think we startled it. But instead of running, it just kind of stood there and just kind of like was kind of like moving a little bit back and forth. But the energy that it was giving off, you could just feel it like in pulses. And I was like, ugh, I was
Wow.
like, we're sorry. We're sorry. We're just gonna back up and we're just gonna leave you be, And so we shut the door and we looked at each other. And then I was like, no, we can't go back in there now. We just told it we were gonna leave, And but as we were looking at the bottom, like where the bottom of the door was, you could see that you couldn't hear it, but you could see that it was just like pacing. It looked like something was
Right.
walking back and forth, like maybe it was expecting us to, come back in there. Wasn't really negative, but it was just this wave and it hit the both of us. It was really strong. But there's a difference between, something can be negative and just feel uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that it's anything bad. Like if you're sitting next to somebody who's really angry with you, you're going to feel uncomfortable. And so it's just like that. That's the way I look at it. It doesn't mean it's scary.
Right.
It doesn't mean, I got a demon sitting next to me or anything. It just means it's just an unhappy energy. It's just uncomfortable. So, yeah.
There you go. Jenna,
Oh, I forgot one.
what? Okay, go ahead. She's got another
Yeah,
one.
the night at the cafe before we all went to the bathroom. We all went. You always went to the
Oh my
bathroom in a
God,
group.
it's a bathroom story. A shadow person in the bathroom?
No, but you always go to the bathroom in groups at the cafe because there's safety in numbers. So then we were done and we come back and open a door, or after the door slammed shut behind us, of course. So we're all like sitting ducks back there. We're like, what? Where do we go now? We got all of our stuffs out there. So we're not going to be cowards and go out the back. We're going to go out there, but we're going to announce ourselves first. Hey, it's us. We're coming back. But when we open the door, there's a huge shadow. And I don't mean like tall, skinny, super dark, but I mean like that thing filled the doorway.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was big. It was on something. I mean, it was like 6.5. It was well over 6 feet at least. It was like wherever its chest was, I was about chest high on it. I mean, it was tall and broad, like really broad, like linebacker, football broad, and couldn't really see legs. It was just this giant shadow form, and then it just stood there, and there was like 6 of us there, and we all saw it because everybody was kind of like backing up a little bit, and except for me, I'm standing right there. I was like sitting there wondering, can this thing like hurt me? Like what happens if it rushes me? Am I gonna feel it? So I got all these things going through my head, and then it just moved off to the other side of the room and just got to the wall, and it was just gone. So I don't know. So we went and sat down, and then after about 5 minutes of sitting down and hearing what sounded like furniture moving upstairs, I was like, time to go. And that's when all the craziness happened.
That's when it got crazy. Tom McNicholas is asking me, did your arms cross on their own, or did you feel his hands touching you? So yeah, he actually. Thank you, Adobe, for letting me know I have 6 updates available. Yeah, so he grabbed my arms and crossed them across my body like that. So I felt him touch. So, and it didn't feel. People have asked me, did it feel cold? Did it feel electric? It just felt like somebody taking my arms and grabbing them. I mean, it just felt like any other person. Actually, it didn't feel any different than anything else that I would have felt up to that point in time. So, yeah, I mean, even then, I'm still thinking that this was some sort of intruder there, some bad guy to kill me, except I didn't see a face. It was all black, no features, nothing, just black. But
can shadow people attack you?
Can shadow people attack you? Oh, that's from Dave. Good question. And I'm going to say, well, they can, because there are ones that do. But there's a caveat here. So not all shadow people are evil, okay? And I think that's something that's been thrown out there far too much these days. Or not even these days. It's been around for a while. There's a lot of people that will say, well, all shadow people are evil. They're the most darkest thing out there, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, some of them, but not all of them. They're just like with people. Like there's bad people, and there's people that do, like human beings, that do some really, really atrocious things, that do some evil things, that do hurt you. Same thing with shadow people. There are ones that are mean and nasty and nefarious and will hurt you. But then there's others that don't. Most of the shadow people stories, and I've been collecting them for a long time now, most of the shadow people stories are just, they're creeping people out because they're standing there staring at you. And they're just looking, and they're looking. And people are afraid of that. Their fear is heightened because here's this entity in my room. Here's this dark thing that, I don't know what it is. It's all black. It's standing there staring at me, just being extremely creepy. And so, people fear what they don't understand, and so they don't know why it's doing it, and so they get extremely frightened. And I think sometimes people work themselves up into too much of a frenzy over this thing that's just standing there looking at them. Other ones, like I've said, Johnny V's, it's like I scared it. Others are just, peeping in the door and they're gone. So majority of shadow people and shadow people stories that I've, either talked to people about or collected or they've written me or whatever, most of them, don't get hurt or get harmed or whatever. It's just a creepy moment. But there are ones, unfortunately, that, yes, sometimes will hurt people. It can happen.
I kind of wonder if I've ever seen like an authentic shadow person, because I feel like most of the ones I've seen, I feel like sometimes the energy that I feel is the same as the human spirits that I interact with. I think they just manifest themselves in whatever they're either strong enough to do or just whatever they feel like showing at the time.
Yeah, there's some of those that are actual human spirits. They're not like an quote unquote authentic shadow person. They're not a interdimensional being that a actual shadow person is. Some of them are human spirits that just they can't quite manifest, or we don't quite understand. But like the little girl, at Mineral Springs, it's basically like she morphed out of the shadows, because down the hall, this happened at the Paracon, the Haunted Road Media Paracon that we had back in June during the investigation. Tom McNicholas down in the chat was there. Nick and Dustin, all of them. Yeah. So we're looking down the hall because we had heard some noises from the hallway. So we go out there and we're taking a look. And at the end of the hall it's like these shadows that are moving and they're rising and it's coming, closer down the hall. And it does like this weird swaying thing, from like one side to another, but more on the right side than the left. And it's kind of going like this. And then as it comes closer, it like morphed into the apparition of a little girl.
And I didn't see it when it was a shadow, of course.
Of course.
So I didn't get to see the cool morphing thing. By the time I noticed,
it was
she had already started forming.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah. But see that, but that's one there. That's a story right there where it's like, yeah, she was trying to manifest early on, she was, I don't know if she was having a problem manifesting or whatever, but she was in a shadow form and then was finally able to fully manifest as the apparition. So, yeah, the shadows can be people.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean,
really was.
The question becomes, how can you tell between a real shadow person and a human spirit that's a shadow? And that's difficult. Sometimes you just don't know, which is going to be a topic discussed in the book. From Terry, Mike, did you tell your family about the shadow person? Yeah, I mean, I immediately ran to my parents' bedroom. I was a kid. I was 8 or 9 years old. They told me I was having a bad dream. Now, when I was 13 and we moved into the new house in Ohio, and I was seeing that shadow person peek in my room. I mean, it was going on for a couple of days there at the beginning, as I'm unpacking and putting things away and all that. And finally, I was like, I keep seeing this thing. Mm-hmm. So I asked my mom, and she actually admitted that she had seen it too. So I was like, okay, good. I'm not crazy. And I guess maybe she thought I was old enough that she could admit that. And for the next couple months, I would see it periodically, kind of doing the same thing, and then the activity just went away. So that's a yes and no. When I was little, they said no. When I was older, at least my mother said yes. So, Tom McNicholas, there is still that shadow person at the Red Roof Inn I would like to communicate with. Yeah, I remember that last time that we were there. There is so Spook Show Con. You go there August 18th. That'll be at the Red Roof Inn there in DeKalb. So, Terry says being stared at is creepy enough, but by a black shadow person with no face, oh my God, yeah.
That no face thing kind of gets me. And you can't see features. I mean, it's just I still get creeped out by a lot of things. I think it creeps me out more when I can see it than when I can't see it, even though I get creeped out by that too. I'm not the bravest paranormal investigator. Not always. There's just sometimes it's okay, but there's just sometimes it's just, it doesn't matter how big piece of black tourmaline I'm carrying. Just sometimes I just don't want to be alone there.
Yeah, Tom, it was in the coat closet, right? Kathy Ciliento, question. I was watching one of your investigations and noticed on the floor running along the side of the wall was some small black round shadows. There was more than just one. I can't remember which investigation it was, but it was creepy. I hope you can remember, so you can tell us which one.
So we can watch it again.
Yeah, it was not a mouse or anything like that, but it was close to that size. Still trying to figure out what it was. Did you happen to see it? I didn't happen to see it because I would have remembered something like that.
Yeah. Do you remember? We did a lot of lives at Mineral Springs, at Vandalia.
Yeah, she didn't necessarily say it was live. She said during one of your investigation videos. Okay. So, yeah, if you could figure out which one, that would be awesome. I'd love to take a look. I have seen smaller shadows like that. Like at a cemetery, I've seen, looked like about the size of a cat, and it was kind of scurrying around a little bit, which was really interesting.
Well, when the twins and I were on the boat, we saw...
I think Tanya checked out because she didn't answer your question.
Oh, bummer.
But while you and the twins were on the boat.
Yeah, we were on a boat, and there was a spot, like where the main showroom was, and then there was that other spot right there where they took the wall out, where the big beer was. So there's that little spot right there where they busted the wall out and had the posts or whatever sticking up. And there was this post here on the end. We were standing like right here. And then I was facing the door. But I just happened out of the corner of my eye, saw something. And then there was this, a shadow thing. I mean, it was maybe about a foot long, and didn't have like form or anything. It was just this thing. And it moved so fast, and it moved fast enough. And there was a little bit of shadow there, next to us where there was something blocking the light. And it moved from that to the shadow and just disappeared in that shadow, just became a part of it. But it moved so fast that I jumped because I thought it was coming at me, and it was coming right in my direction, but it just disappeared in the shadow there. So it just became a part of it. But it was real low to the ground, and it was just super fast. And it was darker than, the shadow that it was coming into, but that scared the crap out of me. I mean, it was like, boom, coming at me from low, and I jumped. So, and I know one, if not the both of them, saw it. So,
cool.
But we saw a lot of stuff that day. It was pretty cool.
So Bree Jones, she's talking about the crawler at the penitentiary. This wouldn't have been anything like that. The only crawler I've actually seen was at Black Bear Church.
I'm okay with never having seen one of those.
Yeah.
I've never seen one.
Yeah, and you haven't seen one,
either.
so right.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, there is one at Waverly. And yeah, Nick Millet is saying it's called the Creeper. Okay, I haven't been to Waverly, but that's okay.
Me either.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up this final Inside the Upside Down. I know. It'll be something else next week. We'll still be here next week. It's just going to be something else. So thank you for hanging out. And I guess I'll give some shout outs here since I blew it for Edge of the Rabbit Hole.
Forgot.
Yeah. So no, it's been a great run with Inside the Upside Down. And so I hope you were able to get your T-shirt in time. I always love the Stranger Things reference, but I had been thinking for a while we needed to change the name. And I don't know. This was just kind of like almost a little wake-up call. Even though I could get away with continuing to call it Inside the Upside Down for a while, this is just kind of a little wake-up call that, it's probably about time to change it. So, but we'll still cover very similar topics, talking about all things supernatural, paranormal, metaphysical. We've done shows on rocks and crystals and stuff. So, those are always fun and interesting. You guys,
portals and
portals,
all kinds of fairies.
Fairies, yes, we have done an episode on fairies. So we'll continue to do all that stuff, just under a different name, something to do with shadows. You guys gave a lot of great ideas down there. So absolutely appreciate it, and we will catch you guys next week. All right, everybody. We're coming out of the upside down. We're going to go back to right side up.
We're going to go top side and come with a new name.
Yeah, go top side and delve deeper into the shadows. I don't know what we're going to call it. You guys had a lot of great ideas. We'll figure it out. So,
Daisies in the shadows or something.
We got a week to figure it out.
Yep.
Actually, less than that, because I'll have to come up with like the logo and branding and all that stuff to go with it. Crap. All right, everybody. You guys have a great night, and we'll catch you next week. Until next time.